Are your kitchen and bathroom remodels a little overdue? Well, now's your chance to call First Response Contracting. John Sellers will take care of you. 484-256-7136. They do residential and commercial, and they're licensed and insured. Give them a call at 484-256-7136.
From real estate
Affects the market as a whole, which then sometimes will affect the tenant.
Right. Come in.
to real life.
We all learn in different ways. If you think about it, Wayne Dyer might not attract everybody.
And everything in between.
Mission was really to help people just to reach their full potential.
The Brad Weisman Show. And now, your host, Brad Weisman.
All right. Of course, we have a great show for you tonight. Thanks for joining us every Thursday at 7 p.m. We really, really appreciate it. There's always somebody new on. Hugo and I are always looking for somebody new and exciting to have on the show, and we do have somebody exciting that's going to be on the show. This guy's been all over the place. His name is Dr. Noah St. John. He's he's known as the father of affOrmations, not affirmations, affOrmations, and we're going to get into that. He's the mental health coach to the stars. He's famous for helping his clients make more in just 12 weeks than they made in the past 12 months. So without any more delay here, we're going to bring him in. Dr. Noah St. John. How you doing, buddy?
I'm so happy to be here. Great to be here, Brad.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm glad you're here too. So wait a minute. I didn't even ask you. The doctor, what's the doctor for?
I have a PhD in pastoral counseling psychology. So at one point in my life, I thought I might become a pastor or a priest.
Oh, wow.
But God kind of put me in a different direction. And now I'm an author and a speaker and a consultant and just, and having fun.
Oh, that's great. That's really cool. Well, good for you. So, let's jump right in here. I was reading over your stuff, and this is the part that was just funny. I'm looking at your stuff after we had finally got the date together, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking over it, and it says affirmations. I'm seeing affirmations a couple times. And now I realize when I go to type it into or put it into my Word file, it's saying it's spelled wrong. Right. And I'm like, no, it's not. I got it right from his site. It can't be spelled wrong, right? Turning out that your affOrmations is different than affirmations.
That's right.
We got to just dig into that right away. Let's talk about that. What's the difference, or what are you calling out as being different with that?
Okay, so for everyone listening to this program, I want people to realize I'm using a new word here. All right, so I'm holding up my book. It's called The Book of affOrmations, and you're right, it's spelled AffOrmations. This is my Book of affOrmations published by Hay House. Okay,
awesome.
So affOrmations, what the heck is that, and how are they different from affirmations? Okay, so as a keynote speaker and as a coach, one of the things I get to do is I get to do speaking for teams, organizations, and companies all across the country and really around the world, whether it's live or virtual. And one of the things I like to do with my audience members, and of course I'll do it with the audience that's here, is I like to say, okay, everybody knows what an affirmation is, right? And they go, yeah, all right. So an affirmation, of course, is a statement of something that you want to be true. Mm-hmm. Right. And I say, well, how do you know what an affirmation is? And like, well, I've read it a million times, right? Every motivational speaker on planet Earth talks about affirmations. You got to say these positive statements and say it in the positive. We've heard this a million times. And so I said, okay. So I said, all right, everybody, I want you to do this for me. We're going to play a little game. I want you to say an affirmation, just like, the motivational speakers taught us. Mm-hmm. And everybody say, I am rich. All right. And everybody goes, I am rich. You know what happens next? Everyone starts laughing. Mm. And I go, what are you laughing at? And they go, well, I'm not rich. And I say, but you just said you were. And they go, yeah, but I don't believe it. Aha. Now, isn't that the problem, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem with the old method, with the traditional affirmations, that we say these statements and we want to believe them, but most of the time we actually don't believe them. In fact, did you know that a scientific study was actually done on this very topic? And they found, after studying this, that 3/4 of the people, literally 75% of the people that use the old affirmations method actually end up more frustrated than before. So imagine if you had a smartphone that didn't work 3 out of the 4 times you went to use it. You'd probably get a new phone, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I invented. I invented a new phone for your brain. Okay, so what is an affirmation? Well, this is something that I discovered 30 years ago, and it was actually in the shower, believe it or not. So I actually call it the shower that changed everything. In my books and in my courses, I call it the shower that changed everything. I'm sure everybody listening to this program has had that moment in the shower or the bath, right? I mean, it's that eureka moment, right? I mean, this goes back to the ancient Greeks, so it's an ancient tradition. And so this was in April 1997. And I'd been reading every self-help book out there. I mean, literally for years and years and years, reading every self-help book. And they all said the same thing, right? Use the affirmations, say it and say. So I had them, I had Post-it notes all over my walls. I'm happy, I'm rich, I'm successful. Meanwhile, the reality was, no, I'm not. I'm broke, unhappy, and miserable. Right? And so I said, well, what the heck is wrong here? What is wrong with this picture? And what aren't they telling us? What are they leaving out? And so I was thinking about this. I was in the shower and I said, okay, what are we doing here? We're talking about beliefs. What's a belief? And I realized belief is just a thought. And then I said, well, what is human thought? And I realized that human thought is the process of asking and searching for answers to questions, not statements, but questions. In fact, I can prove it to you right now. Why is the sky blue? Why is the sky blue?
Because the ocean.
Do you know what just happened in your brain in that moment?
No.
I'll tell you exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I asked you a question, and instantly in your brain started to search for the answer. Mm-hmm. I said, why is the sky blue? And your brain instantly said, I don't know. Why is the sky blue? And so it's like a computer searching its files. And you're searching your files. The sky is blue because, I don't know, but it's searching.
Yeah.
And so I said, wait a second. If the human brain is automatically searching for answers to questions, why are we going around making statements we don't believe? Why don't we just cut out the middleman?
Right.
And I said, what would that look like? And I said, well, let's see. You got the statement or affirmation, I am rich, to which your brain goes, yeah, right. Right. I mean, that's what it does. It really does. I call it the yeah, right response because we don't believe it. And so I said, now remember, the motivational speaker said, just repeat it 1,000 million billion cajillion times until you believe it someday. Well, for some people that works, but for most of us, that doesn't work at all. And we end up more frustrated than before.
Yeah.
So I said, well, if that's the statement, what would the question be? And then I said, why am I so rich? Why am I so rich? Now, when you form a question like that in your brain, what instantly happens? You start to search for the answer. So I realized, wait a minute, what if instead of saying statements we don't believe, why don't we just cut out the middleman and go right to the question? And that's when I realized, I was literally in the shower and I said, holy cow, I think I just invented something.
Oh, wow.
And so I had to give it a name, this new method that I discovered, and I call it the affOrmations method. Again, it's AFFORMATIONS, and you can go to affOrmations.com and learn more about my affOrmations method. And so really now, because I've been teaching this for 30 years now, I've written 25 books on the subject. And, of course, I have coaching and courses on it as well. I mean, now my affOrmations method has helped people to make more money, to lose weight, to find love, to quit smoking, to overcome addiction. Wow. I had a couple in Germany and they wrote me and they said, Noah, we were about to get a divorce. We had the divorce papers on the table ready to be signed. We heard about your affOrmations method. We got your affOrmations book and your affOrmations course. We started studying your method. We tore up the divorce papers and now we're madly in love again.
Amazing.
I mean, just incredible stories like that. So it's really life-changing and it's incredibly powerful and very simple.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it's a different way of looking at things. And you're right. Yeah. Those affirmations, believe me, I've done a lot of them, different things when you stand up and all right, and everybody's going to say this and everybody's going to do this. And it kind of just leaves you frustrated because it's really, you're lying to yourself too. Because you're not rich.
Precisely right.
You're not rich. You're lying to yourself. And if you're lying to yourself, then what does that do? But that's really cool.
Thank you. And and just to jump off your point there, Brad, what happens is, and this is what I've been teaching for many years now, is that with the old method, if you think about this, imagine you were trying to build a house, right? And you need, what do you need to build a house? Well, you need different tools, right? Yeah. So you go to the tool store. Let's say you go to Home Depot and you say, hey, you know what? I'm building a house. I need some tools. And they say, yeah, well, we've got chainsaws over here and that's all we have. And you're like, what do you mean that's all you have? Yeah, well, we got chainsaws and that's it. I'm like, well, but I need more than a chainsaw to build a house. Yeah. They go, well, you got green chainsaws, we got red chainsaws, we got yellow green chainsaws, just take whatever chainsaw you want. And so what does that mean? What I mean by that is we were only taught one method to change our beliefs. Statements, right? Or affirmations. Yep. We were taught that that's it. That's all you get. And that's what really frustrated me. And frankly, it's frustrated, millions of people. But see, I was the first one to, number one, identify it. Number two, give frankly, a better, more powerful, and more effective method, which is the power of questions, which ironically, you're already doing anyway.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that I'm very passionate about teaching, is that every human being on this planet is already using my affirmations method anyway. There's only two problems. Number one is they don't know they're doing it. And number two, most people are asking really lousy questions.
Oh,
like,
wow.
why am I so stupid? Why can't I do anything right? Why isn't my business growing?
So
Why
what does
can't
the
I
brain
lose
do
weight?
then? Does the brain try to answer that question then?
It has to. There's no other way. Now, notice people aren't doing this on purpose. Nobody is doing this consciously.
Right. I got you. Yeah.
I mean, it can be sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, you do something and you're like, oh, why am I so dumb? Why can't I do anything right?
Yeah.
So you might actually say it out loud, but more often it's in the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
All right. So it really goes back to the iceberg principle of human behavior. Only about 5% of our thoughts, behaviors, and actions are visible above the surface. That's the conscious mind, right? Like the iceberg. Well, the vast 95% is below the surface of consciousness in the subconscious. And as I always tell my coaching clients and my audience members, it wasn't the part of the iceberg that they could see that sunk the Titanic. It's the part that they didn't see that sunk the Titanic.
Yeah.
And that's what's sinking most of us as well.
Yeah.
So what we do with my affirmations method and my power habit system, and by the way, my affirmations method is just the first of my habit of my power habit system. So it's the foundational habit, but there's 11 total habits that we actually have to master, really, in order to have that automatic success, as I call it. So what we're doing is we're bringing, using my power habit system and affirmations, we're bringing it to the surface, and then we can make a conscious choice, and then we don't have to keep holding ourselves back anymore.
Amazing. Yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at it. An interesting way to kind of peel back the onion there a little bit. The other thing, so is that part of when you say 12, you can make more in 12 weeks than you made in the past 12 months? Is that part of that also? I mean, is that being used with that?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, I want to take a second and thank Comfort Pro. Since 2001, Comfort Pro has been helping customers stay comfortable where they live, work, and play. They have 24/7 emergency service and a 100% customer satisfaction guarantee. If you need help with your heating and air conditioning or indoor air quality, call Comfort Pro at 484-917-1803. Mention the show and receive a free humidifier with the installation of a complete system.
Oh, absolutely. So that really comes back to what I call my power habit system. So when I discovered affirmations in 1997, 30 years ago now, I realized, wow, this is incredibly powerful and can really change people's lives. But I realized there had to be more to it than that, because there's a lot of people out there, and I'm sure we've all heard about it. They're teaching about manifestation and visualization and just think about money, and money pours in from the sky. And I'm like, really? Where's that happening? What planet is that on? Because
it's a different sky. Yeah.
Tomorrow,
it's in Pennsylvania, not in Ohio.
I'll be there tomorrow. It's like, great, because on planet Earth, we have to do this annoying thing called take action, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
To actually have a result. It's like, I'll think about having six-pack abs, and meanwhile, I'll sit on the couch and eat junk food. Sounds great. It's like, no,
I'm in. I know, right?
But see, that's what we've been sold, because that's what we all want to believe, right? We all want to believe. Yeah, I don't have to do anything.
Yep.
Yeah, not so much, So I'm one of these annoying guys that says, reality check. Sorry, doesn't work that way. Gosh darn it.
No, it's good.
We live on planet Earth. And anyway, so my point is, I realized that I had to have, frankly, a system, and I ended up calling it the Power Habit System. And the full name of it is the Power Habits of Unconsciously Successful People. Now, that's a mouthful, but really all it means is I realized that highly successful people are doing these unconscious habits. They're doing these habits and they don't even know they're doing them, number one. And number two, that means they can't teach it. Yeah. So that's why we have there's lots and lots of habits training out there. But the problem is, it's all on a conscious level, like I was just talking about, right? So, hey, work harder and set your goals and think positive. Okay, that's not wrong, but if that's all it was to succeed, we'd all be millionaires, right? So there's way more to it than that, but they don't want to tell us. So that's what I do, is I bring this up and I go, guys, there's things that are going on beneath the surface that they're not telling us, and that's what I have to do. And quite frankly, that's why I've helped people make so much money. In such small amounts of time, like really short amounts of time. I can give you tons of stories and examples of that. But the point is that that's what these power habits really do. They bring to the surface everything that's holding the person back from really reaching the level of success they're capable. Let me just give you a quick example.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you give us one of those, an example?
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Absolutely. So I was speaking at a seminar in Los Angeles to 1,000 business owners. These are, entrepreneurs, business owners, 7 and 8 figure CEOs, and business owners, really, really successful audience, And so I was speaking, I talked for about 30 minutes on everything we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And I was walking off the stage, and a man came up to me out of the audience and he said, Noah, you are the coach that I've been looking for. I want to hire you as my coach. Now, I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. True story. You can see his video right on my website. But anyway, I said, okay, well, what's going on? He goes, Noah, I own this company and we got to 7 figures really fast, but we have been stuck at 7 figures for the past 4 years. We haven't grown. We're just stuck here. And he said, I have hired all these marketing guys. I've hired every guru out there. He named all the names. I spent tons of money, but we just can't break through that income ceiling. And he said, as soon as I heard you speak about affirmations and power habits and head trash and everything you just talked about, he said, I knew that you were the coach I've been looking for. So he literally hired me on the spot. That's why I love working with high achievers, right? Because they make decisions quickly and firmly, didn't dilly-dally, didn't waste any time. So I coached him for 18 months. And in that 18 months, we were able to get his company that had been stuck at the same level for the previous 4 years to over 20 million in revenues.
Wow.
20 million. That's a 600% increase in less than 18 months. That's what we like to call hockey stick growth, right? Because, you go along like this and then whoop, you get a hockey stick. Yeah. So that's an example of the power of these power habits. And the point is that he had already spent, just like most of my clients, spent tons of money on all this other stuff. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but it only gets you to a certain point, and then you just really can't break through no matter how much you hustle and grind and do all that other stuff. And so it was clearing out all of this head trash and then, using my power habit system. That's what gave him that hockey stick growth.
Amazing. That's cool. That's cool. Let's go into this. You said head trash a couple times now, and I just have on my paper here, head trash ? Yeah. So what, give me an idea what head trash is. Like what is that?
Yeah, well, like I said, this is what I've written 25 books on, in 18 languages, and teach, and speak and do courses on, and coaching and so forth. So really, for everyone listening to this program, it really comes down to what it is that you want, right? What do you want? Now, everybody out there talks about goals, right? We've heard that a million times. You got to set your goals, set your goals. We've heard that a million times. Okay, but what's so funny is what they don't talk about. And what they don't talk about is what happens after you set your goals, right? So we humans are goal-oriented organisms. We are always constantly thinking about what it is that we want, right? Whether it's a new car, a new house, a new job, or a ham sandwich for lunch. I mean, we're always thinking about what do we want. And so that is, your goals, right? So they could be big goals, they could be small, medium, whatever. All right. So that's fine. And yes, the truth is, you have to set your goals. But what happens after you set the goal? And this is what people don't realize is that what happens after you set the goal for most people, right after they set their goal, they go, I don't think I can do it. So like what's a common goal that people have in business? Well, of course, I want to make more money, right? Everybody says that, right? Well, so I have people who come to me, whether at my seminars or, contact me on social media or whatever, and they'll say, hey, Noah, I want to make more money. Okay, here's $5, go away. You got to get a lot more clear than that, right? What does that mean? Because more money to you might mean something totally different to the next person, And so that's the point. If I, as an example, if I said to you, hey, I could show you how to make $1 million in the next 12 months, would you be interested?
Sure.
Most people go, yeah. But if I said that to, Richard Branson, hey, Richard, I'll show you how to make $1 million in the next 12 months. He'd go, get the heck out of here. Yeah. I can make $1 million in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
You see what I mean?
It's all relative.
So it's all relative.
Yeah,
There's no right answer.
Yep.
Okay. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
so anyway,
absolutely.
So it's very important that you get clear. But like I said, what happens after you set the goal? Most people, they say, I can't do it. So let's take the example of more money, right? Oh, I want to make more money in my business. But I can't do it. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. Yeah. I can't afford it. I don't know who to talk to. I don't know who I can trust. I've tried it before. I've failed in the past. I can never do anything. You see what I just did?
Yeah.
I literally just psyched myself out of that goal that I just said I wanted.
Yep.
Right. And so that's the point. That's what people are doing. But remember, this is all in the subconscious. People don't do this consciously. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, wow, it looks like a beautiful day. You know what? I think I'll hold myself back from success today. Right? No one's ever said that, because that would be a conscious thought. That's never happened. But it doesn't matter, because, see, we're sowing seeds in the fertile soil of our subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is where we're sowing these seeds of thought, right? And so that's really the point here, is we're sowing seeds. For most people, they're really sowing lousy thought seeds.
So how do they not have those? How do they not put those in there? If it's in their subconscious, how do you get it out of there?
Well, you have to use my power habits. I don't know any other way to do it. I really don't. And believe me, I tried everything. And the truth is, I wrote all these books for me, because I read every book out there, and they didn't do anything. Right. And I was so frustrated. I was reading these books for years and years and years, because, see, I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. And I know that's a total cliche, but it's true. I grew up in this little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England. In fact, one of the wealthiest communities in the entire country. But see, my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community. The have-nots was my family. So I hated being poor. I hated it, because I saw that when you're poor, when you have no money, that means you don't have choices. You don't have options. You don't have power. And I don't mean power over others. I mean the power to make your own decisions, the power to live your own life. The power to make your choices and say, this is how I want to live and what I want to do with my life. We didn't have that. And so I said, I hate that. That really makes me very angry. Even as a kid, I was like, I don't like this. And so, I did the only thing I could think of to do. Of course, there was no internet back then or anything like we have today. So I just went to the library and read every self-help book there is. I just went to the self-help section and read every book in the self-help section. And they all said the same thing, which I've already been talking about, set your goals and use affirmations. They all said the same thing. And so when I, been using these or, reading these books and everything for years, but I wasn't successful, and I was so frustrated. In fact, at the age of 25, I was in Los Angeles. I was, I had a dead end job, and, my girlfriend had just left me. It was like a country song, but it's really true. And, I made the decision at that time to take my own life. I made the decision to, commit suicide at age 25. Oh, wow. And that was after years and years and years of reading all these self-help books. So what does that tell you? There was clearly something missing there, and now it's something, really saved my life at the very, very last moment. My life was spared, but I didn't know why at the time. And so I said, I've got to find my purpose here on the earth. What am I doing here? Why am I here? And so then I started reading spiritual books, about to find your purpose in life. Yeah. And then that was when in 1997, I discovered affirmations, and then, started writing all these books. And now, here we are 30 years later.
How old were you back then when you started doing the affirmations?
Well, I started when I was a kid. I started, and I've said this story before, and many people don't believe me. In fact, this was in my first book, and my editor told me to take it out because people won't believe me. And I'm like, ask my mother. This is a true story. So I actually read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People when I was 7 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Like I said, people don't believe that, but too bad. Ask my mother. Anyway.
You're doomed to be a top thinker.
Many years studying.
That's some good stuff there.
Human behavior and human psychology.
Oh my goodness.
But that was the frustrating thing, Brad, was they all said the same thing, and it was all at the surface level. That's what bothered me. Yeah. And frankly, that's why I couldn't really get the help that I needed. So can I just tell you another quick story?
Sure, go ahead.
Another one of my clients named Tamisa, she's a real estate professional out in Arizona, and she is a self-described seminar junkie. That's what she called herself back then, meaning she was going to all these seminars. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Going to seminars all over, reading all these books, and, kind of like me. Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing back then. And so a friend of hers referred her to me, and she actually joined my coaching program, which is called the 12-Week Breakthrough. It's a 12-week program where I help people make more in 12 weeks than they did in the previous 12 months while actually winning their lives back. And as it turns out, she tripled her investment in the first 2 weeks of coaching with me. 2 weeks, and she tripled her investment. We hadn't even gotten to the money part yet. That's how powerful these power habits really can be.
Wow, it's amazing. Yeah, That's cool. And are you going to give us one of these habits or no? Are you just going to kind of tease us with them?
I talked about affirmations. So
that's one of them. Okay.
Like I mentioned.
Okay.
So affirmations, which I've talked about extensively.
Yeah. Okay.
Affirmations
that's
are
one of
the
them.
foundational power habit.
Gotcha.
And quite frankly, that's the number one way that people find out about me. People come into the Noahverse usually with affirmations because let's face it, number one,
you have these great terms.
I know, right? I can't help myself.
That's funny.
But I mean, and it's so powerful and so effective, and it's incredibly simple. In fact, Jenny McCarthy, you and I were talking about Jenny McCarthy, and for the people listening, yes, that Jenny McCarthy, the one you all know, judge on The Masked Singer, that Jenny McCarthy. So I've been on her program 4 times, 4 different times on Sirius XM radio, and she literally on the air said, Noah, this is magical. What you created is like magic.
Yeah,
and I
awesome.
said, "Can I quote you on that?" She said, "Sure." But
so use it when you can.
This is so. But the point is, if people get nothing else from this interview, I hope they start affirming. Either get my book of affirmations or power habits or whatever it is. But I mean, that is it is the foundational power habit, and the reason I call it the foundational power habit is because it's exactly like building your house, right? When you build a house, or any kind of structure, a building, anything, right? What do you have? You need a strong foundation.
Sure.
If you have a weak foundation, what do you got? You have a house or a structure that ain't going to be there that long, right? So that's really what it is. So everything starts, as I talked about earlier, with our inner game, with our beliefs, right? So what most people are doing, unbeknownst to them, is sowing really lousy thought seeds. So using my affirmations method, that's the first thing we're going to do is change the thought seeds that we're sowing in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind.
Yeah, no, that's good. Good stuff. And how and that stuff means a lot because every decision you make in your life comes off of the subconscious of what's going on in the background
of what you believe about yourself.
Exactly. Every decision that gets made, you see life through that lens. And
like use my example of I decided to commit suicide. I mean, I used to not tell that story because I wasn't sure how people would take it, and I didn't want them to feel like I was trying to have people feel sorry for me or something like that. No. So for years, I never shared that story in public. And then one day I was at a seminar. In fact, it was my seminar. I was leading a seminar, a 3-day program. And anyway, and so somebody asked me a question, and I just sort of blurted it out. And the reaction of the room was so emotional and visceral. I said, "Oh, I guess I should start sharing that story." Because they understood what I meant by that I'd been reading all these books and that's where it got me.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that happened to anybody else, but I am saying that, a lot of people have been reading these books and they're like, is that it? Is that all you got? And it's pretty bad. I mean, there's just nothing there. And so, that's people who come to me, usually they've tried everything else, which, like the examples that I've shared with you, they've tried everything and they're like, how come I'm still stuck? How come I'm keep hitting that same ceiling?
That's amazing. That's cool.
Yep.
Okay. So one of the things, it says millions of people are unknowingly starving themselves of success. And I guess it's through through the affirmations as opposed to affirmations. People are just really kind of doing it to themselves. It's not really like from the outside in, it's the inside out.
Well, that's actually my second epiphany that I had in 1997. Okay, so 1997 was my year for epiphanies. So
it sounds that way.
Over 3 decades now. And actually, one of my clients pointed out, they said, Noah, did you realize that you've been doing this over 4 decades, the 90s, the aughts, the 10s, and now in the 20s? I'm like, wow, I feel like Warren Moon, in the NFL. I have pretty longevity here. So I like that. Anyway, this was October of 1997, and I was sitting at a seminar on eating disorders, and I realized as the speaker was talking about people who develop eating disorder, I said, wow, that sounds just like me. I mean, they have low self-esteem. They feel like they shouldn't be here. They, don't have any self-worth and just kept going on. I'm like, man, I check every box. And then I said, why didn't I develop an eating disorder? Yeah. And that's when I realized, wait a minute, I don't have an eating disorder. I actually have a success disorder. Now, no one had ever said that before. Like no one had ever even had that thought until I had that in that moment of October 20th, 1997. I realized, wait a minute, I don't have eating anorexia. I have success anorexia.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, again, a term that I invented for that thing. And see, what I realized is that once I understood that, explained my whole life. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, this whole time I've been starving myself of success. meaning that I have been settling for the crumbs of success, just like other people settle for crumbs of food.
Yeah.
Right. And so I realized, of course, that I wasn't alone in that. I mean, I knew that it wasn't just me. As Emerson said, what is most personal is most universal. So that was something that was very personal to me, but I knew it was, of course, universal to, humans. And so really that was the impetus of why I wrote my very first book, which was entitled Permission to Succeed, which was subsequently published by the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. And then as a result, now all these years later, I'm actually the only author in history to have works published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Mind Valley, Nightingale Conant, and the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher.
Wow.
Those are all the major publishers of self-help on planet Earth, and I'm the only author in history that's been published by all of them.
Well, that's something to say there. It's cool. Very cool. So you know what? Believe it or not, we're going to have to wrap this up soon. So I know it goes quick, but no, we try to keep it around 30 minutes, and believe it or not, we're almost there. So
I'll have to come back.
Yeah, you'll have to come back. Let's talk about you have a book that's the 7-Figure Expert book. I mean, you have 20-some books, but that I think is the one that you wanted to talk about real quick. We can just talk about that book?
Absolutely. So so the book is called The 7-Figure Expert. There it is. 7-Figure Expert, and the subtitle is Your Ultimate Guide to a Life of More Impact, Influence, and Financial Freedom. And you can get a copy for free because you're listening to this program.
Oh, cool.
At 7figureexpertbook.com. Easy to remember. 7figureexpertbook.com. The book is free. Just cover the shipping.
Yeah.
And so that's 7figureexpertbook.com.
Awesome.
I do also have another special offer.
Yeah, talk about the new thing you have coming up.
Yeah, for your real estate pros out there. So if you go to powerhabitsrealestate.com, I just released a new program specifically for real estate professionals.
Amazing.
And it's called the Power Habits for Real Estate Professionals. Great name, huh?
Awesome. I think I might look at that.
Yeah, so powerhabitsrealestate.com, just like it sounds. And that's an online course, and there's some incredible bonuses in there. And the reason that I released that is because real estate is the number one industry that I've had the most success with over the past 3 decades, meaning I've helped my clients in real estate make hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate. And what's so funny about that is I don't teach you how to make money in real estate. I teach you how to stop stopping yourself from making money in real estate.
Yeah. Wow.
And, I mean, oh my God, there's so many incredible stories.
Awesome.
Like Bill, who, went from being stuck and now he's doing multi-billion-dollar hotel deals. Brian up in Boston, he was in Boston when I met him. He did $95,000 in commissions in 12 days.
Wow.
And now he lives in Aruba. So
that's
Boston
nice.
To Aruba, you're welcome.
The's not much snow down there. A lot better weather down there. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, I appreciate you coming out. Where is the best place to find you? As far as is it a website that we want to go to? Where do we want to go to find you so that our listeners can grab your book, grab all your stuff and all your information?
If you go to breakthroughwithnoah.com, easy to remember, I'm known as the Breakthrough Coach. So breakthroughwithnoah.com, you can get a complimentary 15-minute business evaluation. So what we'll do is either me or one of my coaches will get on a Zoom with you. We'll do a 15-minute evaluation. We'll see what is your number one bottleneck. What's that thing that's, keeping you at that same income, hitting that income ceiling. And then we're going to give you a 3-step process so you can break through that income ceiling and get that hockey stick growth. So that's all at breakthroughwithnoah.com.
Awesome. That's amazing. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. We'll be seeing him again, I'm sure. But that's about it. All right. Dr. Noah St. John. Boy, that guy has been everywhere, has done everything. He's written over 25 books. He is the father of affirmations. Make sure you check that out. He's got also go to breakthroughwithnoah.com is another one he had on here. And the 7figureexpertbook.com. You get a free copy of that book. You just got to pay for shipping. That's about it. All right. Thanks for joining us every Thursday at 7 p.m. We appreciate you. All right. Hey guys, this is Brad Weisman from The Brad Weisman Show. I don't know if you remember this, but a couple months ago, I had these 3 guys on. They have a company called BroGlow. Well, I have to tell you, I've been using their product now for several months, and I really, really like it. It gives you a nice tan. It's not orange. It's not blotchy. It's very, very even. They tell you how to apply it, and my mom and dad are using it. My wife is using it, and a lot of my friends are using it. It's an amazing product. So if you're looking to get a little tan before the summer hits, this is the way to go. Go to thebroglow.com, put in the discount code BRADW for 10% off. All right. Thanks for watching the show.